And as we just mentioned, David Petraeus' resignation came less than a week before he was supposed to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee about the deadly September 11th attack on the U.S. Consulate in Benghazi, Libya. On Friday, the Pentagon released the timeline, laying out the events of that day, including the U.S. military's response. And CBS News correspondent Margaret Brennan is on our Washington bureau with more on the story. Margaret, good morning to you. And what did we learn from this Pentagon report?
Well, good morning to you, Rebecca and Anthony. The attack was over, and the bodies of the 4 dead Americans had already been airlifted out of Libya 40 minutes before the first U.S. Special Operations Forces were in position. The assault began around 4 p.m. Washington time, and Defense Secretary Panetta was informed shortly after it started. He gave a verbal order to send in military personnel sometime between 6 and 8 p.m., but they did not arrive in Libya until 3 p.m. the next day.
Margaret, what military assets were mobilized then?
Well, Anthony, there were about 3 units mobilized and deployed: a special operations force from Central Europe, 2 anti-terrorism security teams were sent from Spain, and a Delta Force unit was sent from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. But here's the controversial part. While the president ordered that all available Pentagon assets respond, Defense Secretary Panetta said that gunships or fixed-wing fighters, quote, were not in the vicinity of Libya nor postured to be an effective operational option during the time frame of the attack. Now, the Pentagon has come under fire from Senator John McCain and other Republican senators who say military assets should have been on alert. Given it was September 11th, they should have been within striking distance.
It almost sounds like, Margaret, this opens up as many questions as it answers.
That seems to be the way the story has developed, Rebecca, throughout. But we do have 3 closed-door hearings on Capitol Hill this week. There are going to be representatives from the Pentagon, as you said, the CIA, and the State Department. And investigators are going to ask, were there military options considered and decided against that could have made a difference? The State Department hasn't disclosed whether Ambassador Stevens had requested enhanced security. And the CIA, did they provide the appropriate security response? Last week, the agency acknowledged they had sent in 6 agents to fight off dozens of attackers. And as you said, Petraeus was scheduled to testify on Thursday. Because he's resigned, Acting Director Michael Morrell will answer some of these tough questions.
Margaret Brennan in Washington. Thanks, Margaret.